I've said it how many times over the years. You need a quarterback in this league. You need a quarterback in the NFL. Not just any quarterback, you need an elite quarterback. And there's proof as to there's proof around me saying this many times over the years. Just go back to whenever it was Seven's final season in 2021. I warned the Steeler fans that wanted to run him out of town. Don't take this for granted. This dude is a top 5 quarterback of all time. These dudes just don't come around. They don't grow on trees like that. Don't take it for granted. He can still play. Just get him an O-line. Obviously, he's not as mobile as what he was when he was younger. Get him a better offensive line, not the worst one in the league. Get him some better weapons than a Deontay Johnson and a Chase Claypool. Look at where they're at right now. My God. So, I knew that back then. I tried to warn Steeler fans, but hashtag the sabotage. If you know, you know. Steelers organization kind of forced him into retirement there. Thought he at least had 1 or 2 years left. And we've been paying the price ever since, over these last 3 years with the Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields experiment. You need an elite guy at the helm, or you don't got a chance to win a Super Bowl in this league. You don't got a prayer. It's what it is, man. I wasn't lying back then and saying that Steelers, we still need an elite quarterback. Don't write off Big Ben, man. Don't write him off. He's still one of those dudes. Just get him a line. Get him a defense. Get him a defense that's not 32nd in the league and stopping the run, which is what the Steelers' run defense was in Ben's last season. But everyone wanted to blame Ben. I digress. Anyway, just look at the Super Bowl champions over the last 20 years at the quarterback position. Who are they? It's all guys. It's all franchise quarterbacks. It's all the cream of the crop. Big Ben, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, the Mannings, a young Russell Wilson back when he was in his prime and he was, in the top 5. Maybe not top. He wasn't top 5 at the time. He was at least top 10. He was at least top 10, maybe top 7, top 8. And Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Patrick Mahomes. Those are the guys that have won Super Bowls over the last 20 years, over the last 2 decades, except for 2. Didn't mention Joe Flacco and Nick Foles, but those guys are outliers in this in this scenario here. Joe Flacco, throughout the course of his career, was a mid-tier quarterback and just went on an epic run for whatever reason. Those playoffs went on honestly, one of the best quarterback runs in playoff history. That's not a sustainable approach. That's like saying Tua all of a sudden is just going to be going game in and game out in the playoffs for 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, and leading the Miami Dolphins. That's not going to happen. It's not a sustainable approach. And Nick Foles, the other one, Eagles, their backup quarterback, goes on one of those type of runs too. Not something you could really predict. What you can predict is if you have an elite quarterback, you're going to have a chance. Or I think in today's age, with how the NFL has evolved a little bit, you can have one of those offensive gurus at the coordinator position that, due to their play calling, due to their schemes, due to their knowledge of the quarterback position, can elevate average, two above average quarterbacks to play well above their means, a la Sam Darnold, a la Brock Purdy, that type of stuff. And that hasn't even really proven to win championships just yet. But those approaches have gotten pretty damn close. Jared Goff with the Rams, Jared Goff with the Lions. I already mentioned Brock Purdy, Jimmy G with the 49ers. You're even seeing Baker Mayfield with the Bucs do some damage. Do the Steelers have either of those right now? An elite quarterback or an offensive guru, an offensive scheme where you could just kind of plug and play? The offensive coordinators elevating not only the quarterback, but the offense as a whole. I would say no. Do the Steelers have either of those right now? No. With Arthur Smith, I think he's a quality offensive coordinator. You could definitely do worse. He did help resurrect Tannehill's career down in Tennessee. Even this year, he got Justin Fields looking pretty good. Russ looked good for about half of his starts. But it's still a mixed bag with Smith because the Steelers season finished pretty awful. The offense finished pretty awful, worse than any Canada stretch. Worse, like the stats are that bad that Matt Canada didn't accomplish like the depths of how bad this offense looked over these last 5 games. Not putting up more than 17 points in a 5-game stretch. That's not something Matt Canada could even pull off. It also didn't work out in Atlanta with Arthur Smith as the head coach, but some of that was due to personnel. It's also one of those things, though, like we're talking about with Tomlin. You are the head coach. You are the one picking these guys to start at quarterback. You are the guys you are the guy that's drafting some of these players. So the onus is on you as well. I think he is quality. You could do worse, as I said, but he's not in that top guru category of LaFleur, Shanahan, Kingsbury, O'Connell, McVay, that type of stuff. At least not right now. I do still think he's got opportunity in front of him, whether it's with the Steelers again or he goes to take a head coaching job with like the Jets. But he's not there. He's not there. And some of that, at least last year with the Steelers, some of that could be due to Tomlin's influence over the offense, and he may be holding Smith back a little bit. He may be handcuffing him a little bit too. So the answer for Arthur Smith is no, at least right now, especially with how the season ended. But the verdict's still out. I do still think he has an opportunity to get himself in the top class of some of these other offensive play callers and offensive coordinators. But no, the answer is no. The Steelers have either one of these right now, coordinator or elite quarterback. So let me get to the elite quarterback. And it's no. Let's go over the 2 quarterbacks that the Steelers had in 2024. And these are 2 guys that we're seriously considering for 2025 as well. Russell Wilson. He's not an elite guy right now. I think it's clear with how the season ended. He was for like a 7-week stretch of this season. Outside of that was, as I said, the season ended really bad. 0-5 in the last 5 games. Offense didn't put up more than 17 points in any of those games. So I was talking about Arthur Smith. Quarterback's a part of that too. Russ had some bad turnovers in those games. Didn't help that he was getting off the slow starts too. It took him a while to warm up. And it's not even just the Steelers season thing, because some may point to Russ being with the Steelers this year and say, oh, if you just give him another year, maybe he'll be more acclimated to the system. The continuity will help him out. The new familiarity will help him out. But if you just look at over the last 4 seasons combined for Russ, he's been on a downward trend. It looked like he squashed that a little bit when we were sitting at 10-3. It looked like Denver was the bad guys in this Russell Wilson story. It looked like Seattle was the bad guys in the Russell Wilson story. But when you add it all up and how this Steelers season ended, Seattle, last season in Seattle, his 2 seasons in Denver, and this full season here with the Steelers, you combine that all up. He's got a 23-32 record. Russ is known as a winner. Like that's one of the things. That's one of like those attributes you put on Russ, and why we're talking about him being a Hall of Fame. He's a winner. He's just flat out right a winner. Every season in Seattle had a winning record, always in the playoffs, making little runs in the playoffs. Went to 2 Super Bowls. These last 4 years, 23-32, not a winning record. That's a pretty bad record. 63% completion rating. In 2025, that's almost like having a sub 60% completion rating back in the mid-2000s, even late 2000s, I'd say. A 94 QB rating, same thing. Like 94 QB rating, you think, okay, you're in the 90s. That's like mid. He's averaging 51 sacks per season on a 17-game average over these last 4 years too. His touchdown-interception ratio is pretty decent, but after seeing the full Steelers body of work for Russ, I kind of get what Mark Schlereth was saying this offseason when talking about Russ's touchdown-interception ratio in his last year with the Broncos being a little bit of fool's gold. Because if you look at the stats in this last playoff game, Russ had like 270 and 2 touchdowns. Would anyone say Russ had like that good of a game, though, that reflects the stats? No. Those stats are pretty good. 270, 2 touchdowns. But if you watch the game, you wouldn't say Russ had like a good game. You wouldn't be saying that. Not at all. So, I mean, not only have these last however many games not really been that good, I mean, you're talking about elite. No, you can't go that far then either. And is Russ getting any younger? No. The full body of work will say I'll say Russ didn't have a bad season. I don't think he had a bad season. It wasn't elite. Was it good? It wasn't bad. I guess somewhere in between it wasn't bad and good. That's where I'd put Russ's season. Probably is like between like a top 15 or top 20 guy. So that's not elite. And I don't see how he's going to be getting back to elite form and taking a team like us to a Super Bowl anytime soon. I don't think he's there anymore. He's just not. I'm not. And we went over this season with the Steelers, right? How it ended, and we're talking about how we would describe it. It's definitely not elite. I wouldn't even go as far to say it was good. Maybe it's in between good and not bad. Again, but it's not just this 2024 season. If you go back the last three, Denver and his two in Denver and his last season in Seattle, I think it's proof he's not there anymore. If you add all of it up. So if Russ isn't elite at age 33, 34, 35, and 36, how is he going to get back to it all of a sudden at age 37? Again, maybe you make a case, another year in the system will do him right. The continuity will help. Another year with Arthur Smith. But shouldn't that have been the case within the season? Shouldn't he have been getting better as the games went on because he was getting more and more familiar with the system? The rust was wearing off from that calf injury. But as the season went on, he got worse. Like, shouldn't it be the other way around? It seemed like to me once teams got more familiar and studied more tape with the Steelers Russ combo on offense, it just eventually got exposed and figured out. Because we really didn't have an answer for those last 5 games. But then on top of it, talking about continuity, it's being reported today that Arthur Smith and Russ really didn't have a great relationship. It was rocky all season. So if Arthur Smith is back, it actually seems like the continuity would be working against Russ's favor because Arthur Smith has more of an affinity for Justin Fields than Russell Wilson. So how is the continuity or just being in the system for another year going to be doing Russ any good if the relationship between him and the offensive coordinator is already a little bit rocky? I don't know. I got Russ at this point in that Tua, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins category. As I said, it's like top 15, top 20 perennially. And you ain't winning the chip with those type of guys. You're just flat out right not. Your offense is going to be limited, and they're going to let you down going up against the big guns in the playoffs. Russ was capable back in the day. He could do it back in the day. I think he still is a Hall of Famer, but based off what I've seen this year, based off what he's been doing over the last 4 years, I just don't see it anymore. I don't. It looked like he flipped the script in the middle of this season, but how he ended, man, just not only him, but the offense reverted backwards. It was bad. So I'm saying no, Russell Wilson isn't elite. The other guy that started games for the Steelers, Justin Fields. Is he elite? No. But unlike Russ, could he get there? I don't see Russ getting back there at 37. I don't see Russ getting back there as he ages and becomes less dynamic and less mobile. Could Fields get there, though? Maybe. Given that he's only 25 years old and has all the talent in the world. And that's why we got to go with Fields going forward. What did I say at the beginning? To compete in this league, to legitimately have a chance, you gotta have a quarterback. You gotta have that elite guy, or you gotta have the scheme to elevate the quarterback that you got. And if we're saying there's a chance with Fields, if there's a maybe that he could get there, that's the reason you need right there to go with Fields. That's the only answer I need. we got to see Fields for 2025. We need to find out for sure because that's the name of the game. Find the quarterback, you got a chance. Clearly with Russ, we don't. Fields got the arm, he's got the running ability, he's got the talent to become a guy on that Josh Allen, that Lamar Jackson, that Joe Burrow type of level. Obviously, he hasn't put it all together yet completely, but I think the Steelers owe it to themselves. And in a way, I think they owe it to Fields too, given that they moved off him after 6 games with that 4-2 record and Fields was playing good, to find out and give him a chance. Because how else realistically are we going to find an answer for the Steelers franchise quarterback in this 2025 season? How are we going to find that answer in this upcoming season? What other way? The draft, there's no chance. Weak quarterback class, Shador Sanders and Cam Ward are going in the first 2 picks. They're going in the top 5. And we're not going to be making any major trades to move up to that point to get either one of those guys. And if you're talking about getting an unproven dude like Sanders or Cam Ward with high upside, I'd rather just go with Fields. It's not like Fields is this old dude in his 30s. No, he's still young. He's still 25, going to be turning 26. He's almost like a 6-year senior coming out around COVID, really. But he has, up to this point, 4 years of NFL experience. And for us, that year in the system here is something not to sneeze at. I think that year in the system here, I think is something that could definitely benefit Fields. Talking about the continuity with Russ and how it might be able to benefit him, it could definitely benefit Fields. That's why he wants to come back here. He said year in, year out with Chicago, he had to learn a new playbook. Now he doesn't. If Arthur Smith is back, now he doesn't. And Arthur Smith likes him. I'd rather go with Fields than go with any of these rookie quarterbacks if I'm trying to find the guy. At least in this draft class, and where we're going to be drafting, down in the 20s again. Free agency? Are we going to find a guy in free agency? Sam Darnold, the top guy on the market? Presumably, depends on if the Vikings tag him or not. I don't know if they're going to after his last couple games. Sam Darnold or I'll go with Justin Fields. Again, I'll go with Justin Fields. You're probably going to have to pay him less. And the fact that he's already been here, we got to see him here. I'll just go with Fields. I'll go with Fields, man. The way Sam Darnold ended this season, I wasn't really sold on him to begin with. He's got those receivers. He's not going to have those. He's not going to have Justin Jefferson. He's not going to have Jordan Addison. He's not going to have Aaron Jones. He's not going to have Hawkinson. He's not going to have O'Connell calling the plays to whatever his new team is. So, like, I think that's part of what was going on with Darnold and his success over in Minnesota. So, like, I just don't think it's going to be apples to apples if we brought Sam Darnold over here. Not at all. And obviously, you saw how he finished, too. I don't like that. Daniel Jones, he's going to be a free agent. No. As a backup, fine, but I'm not giving him a chance over Justin Fields. No way. What about a trade? Who we trading for? Justin Herbert, I think that's completely out of question now because the Vikings might legitimately go with J.J. McCarthy. The only way I saw them moving off of Herbert is if they were able to get a J.J. McCarthy on a rookie contract, and the Vikings would have kept Darnold. But I could see the Vikings moving on to J.J. McCarthy for sure. So I'm saying Herbert's out of it. And then you have, because he's one of those dudes that you have in the elite category right now that you would trade for, and you definitely know you got the guy. Kyler Murray, I mean, he's always had the talent, but he's never really got to that point. And then you got like a Trevor Lawrence. These are 2 guys that may be available via trade, but they got the massive contracts for $45-50 million per year. And I'm even wondering at this point, if we gave Fields a full season, are they even going to be better than him like that? They have the better body of work. They have the production, but I got to see Fields play like a top 11, 12 quarterback. Honestly, in the Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence range for 6 games. Not a full season. There's something to be said for that, but I got to see the glimpses. I got to see the flashes. He took care of the ball. He's playing winning football. So why trade picks for a Kyler Murray? And they're probably going to be significant draft picks for Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence, and then also take on that contract when you already might have a guy in-house that has shown he can play on that level. Now, for a full season, that's still up in the air. We didn't get that answer at the end of the 2024 season. But Justin Fields ain't going to cost you anything close to what it would take to get Trevor Lawrence or Kyler Murray in here, contract-wise and the assets given up. So again, I think I would just roll with Fields. I think it'd be smarter to roll with Fields. And if you look around the league of those top 6, 7 guys that are elite, how did those teams get them? How did they get them? I just went through all the options, all the avenues the Steelers have. But what's been the approach for the teams that have guys to get their guy, to get that quarterback? Mahomes, he was drafted, in the top 10, top 11, early first. Josh Allen, early first. I think he went 7. Lamar, he was in the late first. I think he was 30th overall. He might have been the last pick in the first round. Can't remember completely. Joe Burrow, first overall pick. Stafford, first overall pick. And then the Lions traded him over to the Rams. Herbert, he was drafted in the top 6. CJ Stroud, maybe I'll throw him in like that 7, 8 range. He was number 2 overall pick. So how did all those teams get those guys? So you got to be drafting at the top of the draft. Lamar was the outlier out of all those quarterbacks. Lamar was the outlier. Everyone else was drafted in the early first round, top 10. And we're never drafting in the top 10. We got Big Ben back in the day in 2004. I think we were the 11th overall pick. So it's either you're drafting early or you, like for Stafford, you trade for someone that was drafted there, and then it works out better in your spot than the previous one. Because with Stafford, it's almost like, it's funny I bring up Kyler Murray and Trevor Lawrence. Stafford was always in that category. You know, he's like bottom top 10, top 11, top 12. We never really knew what he was completely because of him being associated with the Detroit Lions. And then he gets out of there and is able to flourish with the LA Rams in a whole new spot with a McVay, new weapons around him. So, like, that is the case for trying to trade for someone like a Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence, 2 guys that were drafted number 1 overall. They've never really hit what their ceiling could be in those situations, but they're also bad situations perennially. Arizona Cardinals and the Jaguars. Again, though, I don't want to be giving up draft picks and having 45, 50 million on the books for either of these guys. And when I'm not even 100% sure if they're better than Justin Fields, because we kind of have that scenario right now. It's just his whole body of work isn't as established as a Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence, because Fields in his own right is a former top 11 pick. I already said he's not this old guy either. He didn't come into the league late. He's still 25 years old, turning 26. He came into the league young. Still a ton of upside. And based off what he did this year in a Steeler uniform, I don't think it is this great risk going with Fields either, given that he was 4-2 in the game started, had a 10 touchdown to 1 interception ratio, which over the course of the season, that was like, I think the first third of the season, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. So, I mean, you're getting close to 30 touchdowns and like single digit interceptions right there. If you extrapolate what Fields did in those first 6 games over the course of the season, I guess it would be 1 less game. 6 games times 3, that's 18 minus 1. So we're talking like 28, 29 touchdowns. 4 picks? Maybe throw a few fumbles in there, but it's a good season. That's a good season. That's a pretty damn good season, I'd say. And I don't think it's a stretch that if we would have kept him, he could have had numbers like that, and the team would have been like 10-7, wild card exit as at least the floor. But at least we would have had some sort of answer on the quarterback for the future. But because we went with Russ and the season ended the way that it did, we have more questions than answers. And that's why we're talking about what do we do with the quarterback position for the Steelers in 2025. Like a full 2024 season for Fields would have been valuable experience. I think it would have been valuable tape, valuable things to assess Fields off of if you're the Steelers, to whether or not he could be that franchise for you or not. But we're basically in the same exact spot. Let me frame it like this for you guys. What is the move our rivals would want us to make? The teams that hate us, the Browns, the Ravens, the Bengals, what move would they want us to make and to see us fail? Because that's what they want. They want to see us fail. They want us to make moves that they think are stupid. What would they want us to do? I think the answer is obvious. They'd want us to run it back with Russ and have the same conservative approach on offense. They'd be like, okay, cool. That's not a threat. We know where you're finishing next year. Probably your ceiling next year is 10-7, 11-6. If you go with that, that's your ceiling. So I'd say we should do the opposite of that, which is again why we need to go with Fields over Russell Wilson. See if Fields can take over after sitting the second half of this season and sitting and waiting, gaining that new perspective. And then also give Arthur Smith the full reign of the offense, take the training wheels off, and let's see what he could do. Let's see what both of them can do together without the training wheels, without any handcuffs, without anything holding them back. Get creative, get imaginative, get this offense in line with the times. Because Justin Fields has that type of ability. Like, watch him again. Watch some of his highlights. Watch some of his tape from this year with the Steelers. Watch it again and tell me he can't be at least what Justin Hurts or Jalen Hurts is with the Eagles. I mean, if you look at what Fields did in college, he was better than Hurts in college. I think he has the more talented arm than Jalen Hurts. I think he's just more talented in general, but like the better arm, he's faster. I think he moves better. He moves smoother. And I think he proved this season he could play the quarterback position in a winning fashion, unlike his stint in Chicago, because that was a lot of the questions with him with the Bears. Now, we still do need to see it over the course of a season, but we need to take that risk now. We 100% need to take that risk. The Steelers, we better not mess this up, man. Because if it's between Russ and Fields, you have to go with Fields. If you're going with Russ, the organization's wasting their time. You're wasting the fans' time. Because cool, maybe Russ can get you to 9-8 and 10-7, keep you relevant, all that. We're not doing that anymore, man. Like we've been doing that too often. Way too often. That's not the standard. The standard Super Bowls. So if we're not heading in the direction of Super Bowls, we're wasting our time. And with Russ, you're just status quo, purgatory. Good enough to maybe make the playoffs, but not good enough to beat the elite teams. That's how I see it. I have Russ in that category. I don't think he's beating the Josh Allen. I don't think he's beating Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Burrow in the playoffs like that. I don't. Maybe back in the day, not anymore. Fields, could he? I don't know. He's got the talent to do it. If we give him the opportunity, if he develops, he puts it all together, why not? Absolutely, why not? Because at least with Fields, you're finding out if you can reach that Super Bowl with this quarterback at the helm. You're finding out the answer to the most pressing question in the NFL. Who's your quarterback? At least you're finding out that answer. With Russ, you're not finding anything out. You just it's status quo. So you got to go with Fields, man. You absolutely got to go with Fields. If it doesn't work out, then again, you found your answer. You're finding an answer one way or another. If it doesn't work out, then 2026. Draft Arch Manning. Draft someone in the 2026 draft to be the guy. Move on from Arthur Smith. Get a whole new offensive system in here. And maybe at that point we're talking about moving on from Tomlin again. I don't know. But you're going to have way more answers at the end of next year as opposed to going with Russ. Even if you start with Russ and then like Fields comes in halfway, you're doing a disservice to yourself and you're doing a disservice to Fields because you're not giving him a full season's worth of work. And you might have questions again in the 2026 offseason. Just go with Fields, man. Just go with Fields. We gotta find an answer here. Because honestly, he's the most realistic option too. As I went through, how else are we gonna have a chance to get a franchise quarterback? The draft, this year's draft, no. Free agency, no. Trade. The only guy I thought who is a franchise quarterback right now definitively that could be up for the trade would be Herbert, but there's just no chance of that happening anymore. And then you got Kyler Murray and Trevor Lawrence. Okay, you know what? I think those guys are more feasible options if Arthur Smith goes somewhere else and he takes a Justin Fields with him. And we have to bring in a whole new coordinator. I actually think Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence would be legitimate options, trading for one of those two. But if Smith is here and if Fields is willing to take a prove-it deal, 1 year, $10 million, $15 million deal, I think that's the best option. That's the best option. And it's not even a debate to what the option should be, in my opinion, between Fields and Russ. You got to go with Fields. The debate could come into play if you're talking about Fields versus trading for a Kyler Murray or Trevor Lawrence. But as I said, if it's going to be status quo from a coaching staff standpoint, at least on offense, with Tomlin being the head coach and then Arthur Smith being here, I think you got to rock with Fields, man. I think you got to rock with Fields as opposed to taking a chance on a Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, trading up draft picks, killing your cap like that. Because with Fields, you could bring in, because of that potential contract, you could bring in a T. Higgins. You could grab some weapons, build the offense up around him in a legitimate way. Defense, we could use reinforcements there too, for sure. We could use a cornerback or two, extra D linemen. But yeah, I think you gotta go with Fields, man. The goal is to get an elite quarterback, and Fields ain't it right now, but he's the only guy that between him and Russ has a realistic chance to get to that spot. I think the answer is simple. We'll see what decision the Steelers make. It looked like Tomlin was open to it, which is good. It's a good sign. He was talking about Fields in his press conference, saying that Fields did good for us. I do value quarterback mobility, and I'm certainly open to him starting the 2025 season as our quarterback. So that's good. That's definitely good. We got a question that just popped in before I head out of here. He says, serious question. Why would T. Higgins sign with this team in this offense? Money, if we pay him. If we pay him the most. I think your question's valid, though. If you're talking about production and stats, I think it's valid for sure. If we offer him the most money, though, I mean, that type of stuff's guaranteed. And I do think the Steelers are a good organization to play for, though. We do have a good culture. Players want to play for Coach T. So those are some benefits right there. But if you're talking about just straight numbers, straight production, valid question. I don't think we've proven just yet that we could get a receiver serious numbers and serious production, like in the 1,500 yard range. Even the 1,300 yard range. Pickens was on pace for that, but then he got hurt. Yeah, if we pay him the most, we do at least win 9-10 games a year, so you're at least going to be relevant. It all depends on what the player's looking for. All depends. Like there is a case for us. There's legit reason as to why T. Higgins would maybe want to side with this team. Just to be a part of the Steelers organization, be a part of the Steelers culture, play for Coach T. We win games. We don't win playoff games, but maybe T he's looking at himself and saying, maybe I could be the difference. Maybe I could be the thing that gets this team over the hump. So there's that. Good question. It's a legit question, for sure. For sure. Money talks, though. But that's it for today's edition. Talking Steelers football. I'll be back tomorrow. Don't know what the topic's going to be, though. Don't know what we're going to talk about. Yeah, I thought this was good to discuss, though. I'm hoping the Steelers make the right call at quarterback for 2025. We will see. I don't know when we're going to get an answer for that either. I really don't. It might take a little bit. Free agency don't start till like March, but I don't know how these contract negotiations go between now and then. If there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, we'll see. But stay chilling. Peace.